welcome. So since it is, I don't know where everyone is, I'm sure they will be coming, but I'm gonna go ahead and, oh, Laura's here. Laura, finally. Laura is the reason we're doing this.
Hi, friends.
Hi.
I can't open my paper, my brand new paper.
Oh, okay. I will tell you how to do it. Get it.
Confusing.
Here's what you need to do. Hang on a second.
I had the same problem, Lara.
In the middle, there's this, and you can just peel it apart.
Yeah.
There's a white spot.
Yep,
Yeah.
and you'll take like a butter knife or a palette knife. Yep, at the very top.
Yeah.
Credit card works too, I found.
Yep. And you
Okay.
take it all the way around and it will.
I just peeled it like this.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay.
That gets everybody.
Oh, so what are we doing here?
Mhm.
I painted
Right.
something this week and I traced the wrong side.
Yeah, no, be careful with that. So hopefully everyone has printed off the tulip in black and white. And we are making sure that it is tracing glossy side down. And we will begin tracing. Y'all don't need me to like have the overhead on while I'm tracing, do you? Do you want me to? Oh. Yes, no, maybe. Don't need it. We can chat with each other while we're tracing. So I will tell you though, with this, let's see. I don't know that we need to trace all of the different color details. I think we can just do the petals, and I think I can talk us through the rest of it. So we are just tracing. I don't have my overhead camera on right now while we're tracing. And I was talking to Jessica about this before you all came on. So I didn't do a great job of explaining this go around, but I don't always trace my watercolors, but if it's something really detailed, I normally do trace my watercolor, especially if it's something like that portrait back there. Something like that, I definitely always trace. However, it's not really cheating. In the watercolor world, this is something that is done. There are people that don't trace. I have, like, for instance, there's someone you can follow her, Kara Cummings. She is a friend of mine in the watercolor world, and she does incredible botanicals. And she has been cultivating her drawing skills and her watercolor skills for like 30 some years. And so she teaches like a very particular style of drawing and watercolor. And it's excellent, but that's not everybody does it that way. This tracing is a very normal thing in a lot of different types of art. And that's part of what I love about watercolor, is that we can just trace and get to the fun part, which is the painting, in my opinion. I think drawing can be very frustrating, sometimes gratifying, but definitely, for me, I just want to get to the painting piece of it. The old masters watercolor, or when they would trace lots of different stuff. So it's a pretty normal thing. So don't think you're cheating or doing it wrong. Okay, this is a pretty fast one to trace. So I'll just show you. I'm just going to take it. Before I take this off, I want to make sure. There are some highlights that I'm going to try to capture just a little outline of. And I'm going to be really light with my tracing on those places.
Really? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. You can
I'll talk to my
say
dog.
hello, talk. Okay, so I just took my, I want to show you what I'm up to here. See if I can switch my,
Ellie. Keep forgetting if I'm muted. Sorry. My dog's name is Ellie. I'm trying to call her over. So
oh, nice. Okay, so hopefully you can see what I just did with my, reference photo here. You can probably tell I've got, I put in just a few lines in here, but not a lot as far as additional places. And I'm using a different paper tonight. It's still Arches, but instead of the cold press, I'm using hot press because I happen to be out of my cold press. And so it's just a very, it's a very non-porous, whereas the cold press is, it's got a lot of the porousness, so it holds the pigment more. The difference is illustrators who are going to be scanning their artwork in and don't want to pick up like the shadows and the crinkliness of the paper, that texture of the paper, they'll use the hot press because it's a smoother surface. So that's what the difference is. I don't think you all will notice it, but I just wanted to tell you because I think it's a good thing to know. It's interesting to know. All right, so as usual, the way we will be working with this is we're going to go from light to dark. And I think that what we want to do is we want to start with these edges, these yellow edges here. And they're almost a highlight in some places of almost no color, but I'm not going to do no color there. I'm just going to make it very, very light. So I'm going to begin to mix the yellow, the yellowish orange that I want. And the color that I am starting with here, I'm using kind of the orange. So on my palette, the one I have on my palette right now, it's actually called Flesh. Yeah, that's an awkward name for a color, I think. Flesh. And I'm going to add a little yellow, which is the pineapple. I'm going to
is
add a
that
little.
from the box that we all bought?
Yeah, so I
Mhm.
don't know that yours, I've got an older set and a newer set. I've got two sets here.
Oh,
So I think that you'll want to take a look at probably the pumpkin and the pineapple and add those two together. Let me add one more lamp here to get this a little brighter. Okay. A little brighter. Got an elaborate lighting system happening here tonight. So I posted a YouTube video of a watercolor tutorial and somebody totally berated me for something that I do. It's a habit that I want to tell you all about. I leave my brushes in my water. Now, I'll just show you what this does. So see how my tip is slightly crooked here? That's because I leave it in the water all the time. I still have a very fine tip. The brushes are fine, like the bristles are fine. I've had these same brushes for 4 years. I guess it could really hurt. I'm doing air quotes here. Hurt the brush to do this. But the person was like, you should tell your students to, in between each use, like pull out all of the water and put them on paper towels in between uses. I never do that. If you want to do that to save your brushes, go for it. But that's not how I do it. And I have had like really, I've had really cheap brushes that it does wreck the brush to hold them in the water, but on the more expensive brushes, I haven't had a problem. Okay, so just trying to mix the right color here. And so I put together I think pumpkin for yours and the pineapple. And now I'm just gonna add a whole lot of water because I wanna bring that color down. And so this, what I have right here, not over on this side, but right here, I'm just taking this color and I'm going to use the fine tip from my round 16, but if you don't feel like you have good control of your brush yet, you might want to use your round 6. And I'm going to start with these edges over here where I see the yellow, and I'm just putting that down. So anywhere on the reference photo here that I see these edges of yellow or orange, I'm going to go ahead and lay down that color on both of the tulips. Laura, where's your other group of friends tonight?
So we lost some folks. Danielle and Teresa had a friend from Florida who came into town unexpectedly. And then Kate is out of spoons, as she said. So she's gonna,
Aw,
yeah,
watch the
so she's gonna
replay.
rest. Yeah, she was. She's gonna watch a replay.
So it's like you come and they.
Yeah, they were like, Laura's got this one. She's gonna hold down the fort. It's fine.
I love it. Well, that makes me so happy that we're doing all of the replays so that they won't miss it if they want to go back and watch it. So in my like at home watercolor class this week, we did lupines. And I'll just tell you all, it was really hard. And I thought, this is a beginner watercolor class. I don't want you all to hate it, so I'm not going to make you do it.
Is a lupine a flower?
Yeah,
Those are ones that fill my backyard, Laura, at one point in the summer. So you've probably seen pictures, or I could show you.
There's a very cool children's book called Miss Rumpus by Barbara Cooney. And yeah, it's worth the read. And she watercolors a lot of lupines in that book. And yeah, if you read that little children's book, you'll get a good idea of what the lupines look like. Okay, so while that yellow dries, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix the green. Green is such an interesting color to mix, and I will tell you that for me personally, green is the hardest color to mix, to find exactly what I want. But we have a lot. What I love about this particular watercolor set is we have a lot of options for green. And so we're going to start with the lightest color green. And I want to start with like a yellow green. And I'm gonna take, I think I'm gonna start with the mint green of your set. It's got this really pretty, this is the mint green. And I'm actually going to bring a little of the yellow into this mint green. That's the color I'm gonna start with. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint the entire stem that color to begin. And I have to tell you all, I'm actually using the wrong side of this watercolor paper because it's a little bit more porous than the right side. And it's still not quite what I want. So I'll have to go to the art store. I have to say, for me, going to the art store, it's just a little dangerous. And tonight is probably going to be a lot of patience. This is one of those where we're going to have to do a lot of layers. We're going to have to wait for things to dry. And yeah, that's where we are with this. I'm just letting the yellow dry on this tulip so that I can come back over it and bring in some additional layers. I have a very simple layer of green down first as well on this stem. I am curious, what has everyone's favorite one that we've done been so far?
Bug.
The bug? You liked the bug? Amy, how about you? Which one's been your favorite so far?
Not the bug.
Not the bug.
Maybe this one.
Maybe the tulip, okay. Ashley, how about you?
I really liked the phone.
The phone is a good one. Yeah. Rose, how about you? What's been your favorite so far?
I missed Bug Week, but I did really like the phone too.
You can go back and do the replay on that bug.
Yeah, thanks. I will. It looked fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the bug. I like them all so far. Laura, which ones have you been able to do any of the recordings yet?
I haven't, but I'm really excited about the bug. It's so cute. I love it.
Bug is a fun one.
I mean, the phone is darling. The phone is totally something I would paint anyway. And I don't think I would choose a bug to paint. So I'm like, oh, I can't wait to do the bug.
Yeah. I don't think, okay, I think we can probably, my yellow is dried enough, I think. So I'm gonna move the camera back to the phone. Okay, so now we are going to do this orange. So it's really interesting. There's like this orange color and it's the overlap sort of the pink, I believe, on top of the yellow, sort of. I also think it's just a little bit brighter, like of an orange color. So I want to see what I can mix to get close to that color. And I think I'm gonna get some of the, on mine, it is the series, it's CERISE is what I, yeah, there, it's this like pinkish color. On yours, the closest thing to that would be the, it says W pink. I don't know what the W stands for. Let's see. Watermelon pink. I think the watermelon pink. Yeah, yeah. And so I'm gonna mix that in, oh yes, okay, that and the yellow. See how that just, I put a little of that pink into the yellow over here, and it gave me this really rich orange that I totally like. So I'm gonna bring that in anywhere that I see the orange. I'm just gonna kind of feather these lines here. Just added a little bit more of the orange because I wasn't quite getting enough orange for my taste. I want it to stand out a little bit more. And then over on this other little guy, just a tiny little line of orange. Okay, now I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm gonna come in now back to the stems and the leaves. So on this right side of the stem, it's pretty, it stays kind of pretty yellow. And but on the left side that it's a little bit darker of a highlight over here in the green. And so what I think I want to do, I'm gonna take on mine, let's see if I can, I think it is, I have an olive green. Yours is the closest is your, on yours is the jade. And I'm gonna mix the jade. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's the one I want. I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna take that. So it's the olive green on yours, and I'm gonna take it a line on this left side. I'll let it fully take over towards the bottom. And I'm gonna even bring the line over right under. So you can see right here, I just brought that line fully over. Now I'm gonna leave the middle part, that light green, but I'm just gonna bring one light line on the right side, just over top of the pencil mark. So it's not, I'm not making it too dark, just really subtle here. Okay. I'm gonna drop some yellow in here when this dries, but for now I'm gonna leave that the way it is. I'm gonna continue with this color, and I'm gonna bring it on the left side once again over here, bringing the line over like I did on the other one. The line is thicker on this one, almost a, if you're using a round 6, like almost a full brush length's worth. Yeah. And gonna paint. There's this leaf that's like the inside leaf. I'm gonna paint the whole thing. The jade green, olive green, whatever we want to call it. And I think I'm gonna bring a little bit more of the leaf green into the color we just used to paint this outside leaf. I'm gonna paint it fully, but I mix those two colors together. Right, I'm gonna pick up a little bit of that yellow and I'm gonna drop that in over here. And it's almost a little too yellow, so I'm gonna get a little bit more of the leaf green, kind of just drop it in there. And take that leaf green with the yellow and drop it on the right side of the second stem as well. Oop. Okay, I just got some of the, let's see, what's it called on mine? The leaf green again. And I'm dropping that in here while it's wet and just letting it kind of play, letting the color play there. And I think I'm going to do the same thing on the right side of the second stem, of the right stem. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I've done enough damage on that one. I'm going to kind of let that be for the time being. And I want to think about the pink. And it's that, for you, it's the watermelon pink. I like that color. I think that's the color I definitely want to use. So it is very, 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 very light right here on the right, the middle leaf of the right hand tulip, over here and right here. So anywhere that I see it pretty light, I'm going to go ahead and fill it in. So I'm going to take this pink and I'm going to add a whole lot of water onto the palette over here, because I want to water down the pigment. I don't necessarily want a lot of water on my brush, but I do want the pigment watered down. So I'm doing that on the palette first, so that I'm getting that really light color that will be my highlight. And I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I see over, there's this leaf, the leaf on the far right, it's kind of starting to fold out. And right underneath this fold, it's pretty light right here. I'm bringing that light spot in. And then right here again as well. It's going to be pretty light. And you know, I'm just going to paint the whole part of that white because I don't want to create any lines. So I'm sorry, I'm not painting it white. I'm just painting it fully this light pink color. And the reason why I'm doing that, if I were to just put a little bit there, it would give it a bit of a line, and I don't want that line in there. I'm going to do the same thing up here. It's just very light. Now there are some almost white spots that I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to paint those places where I see that there could be some white. And I'm sure it's probably a little bit hard for it to show up on the camera right here, but it's this spot. Do you all see it on the right down here, like clear near the base of the stem? There's some white, and you'll just want to make sure you're not painting that piece of it. All right, so now we have a first glaze, a first color map down of the colors of the tulip, which is fantastic. Now I want to come back down to the leaves and the stem, and I just keep getting really drawn to this leaf right here because there's this dark spot right here, and I like that dark spot. And that dark spot is the same color dark spot as you have right here. It's this shadow piece on the stem of the left-hand side. So we can achieve this color a couple different ways. So we can try to mix what we see, or we can play with it. And we could make it almost a little like a violet green, if that makes sense. So I'm going to just play with some colors because this is where it gets super fun. So we have this really cool forest green, right? Also, I think yours is called peak green. And let's see. Forest green for you is, yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to pick up some of this forest green color on my brush and just take a look. So that's that's a pretty cool color we've got going on there. And I'm taking a look at it, and I'm going to add a little bit of water. So I'm kind of just dabbing the water into this, and I just want a little bit of it on my brush. And I'm just leaving that color and bringing it just lightly. And it doesn't go all the way down, it's just a spot. And then I see it right here. As the stem kind of is coming out of, peeking out of the leaf. And then we've got this beautiful little spot right here on the right between the stem of the right hand tulip and the leaf. That's not quite dark enough, I don't think, even. Let's darken this up here. Okay, and while we're over here, this leaf right here, I want to just give it a little bit more depth. So I'm going to bring in, just kind of mix around some of the yellow. I'm going to mussy this up on my palette, and I'm going to just go ahead and bring it in right here. And I'm not trying to make it precise. I'm going to kind of leave some lines. And then I'm going to get a little forest green back on there and just kind of, while it's wet, bringing that in. Yeah. Okay. There's this little highlight on the stem of the right-hand flower, and it is green, but I want to bring in a little purple, just a touch of purple right there. So I'm going to take the, let's see, I think it's the Merlot. Is that right? Gotta count. Yeah, it's the Merlot, but it looks kind of purple. And so I just want just a little line of that right here. And I just pulled that in. It just adds a little something. I just put that right here, right here. Just adds a touch of something. And I'm gonna take that again, and I'm gonna bring that onto the green of this leaf up here, onto the right-hand side of this, just letting that Merlot kind of get in there. And I'm gonna bring it all the way down. And I'm even going to drop a little of that in right over here where this second stem, the left-hand side stem, is close to coming out. And I dropped it in while it was still wet. And I'm going to bring this Merlot and I'm going to bring it on the left-hand side of the left stem as well. Just, I like the way that kind of gives it a little bit more depth. Now I'm going to do the same thing. This shadow color on the stem, right in here, I'm just going to add that Merlot in there. I'm going to add a little bit more water to the Merlot, and then I'm going to bring it into the leaf right here as well. I just added some lines. Okay, now the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to begin to bring more pink into the actual tulip petals. So what I want to do, I'm taking my round 6, I'm coming back to that watermelon pink, getting more of that on my brush, bringing it over to my palette. I'm mixing it on my palette first because I can control, I can see how kind of dark I have it or how light I have it, adding a little water to my brush. And there's these lines. I'm starting with the right hand tulip, the left hand petal. And I'm just bringing that in like so. And I'm getting a little bit more water on my brush and on the edges, bringing that to the edges of what I just put on to soften it here. It's probably a little bit more water on my paper than I actually want, but it's okay. It will dry. And I'm going to do something similar, picking up a little bit more water onto my brush and bringing that. There's a sharper line here and a sharper line here in the middle. As that comes down. And just bringing that in. This pink. There's this little spot right here that I'm just adding a touch of pink to. And nice little spot here. And just some pink. Getting a little bit more color, bringing it back over to my palette. And now I'm going to start working on the left hand side. And let's see, I'm going to start with this little spot here. And then here and here. Slowly bringing more water in, still strong color. You're a quiet bunch tonight. You can tell we're very intent on what we're doing. Don't be afraid to ask questions if they are coming up as you're doing this. Just letting the color kind of bleed in on some of these places.
I'm trying to figure out how not to get a sharp line between the yellow and the purple. Like I know you can bleed it in, but
A sharp line between the yellow and the purple. I kind of have a sharp line right now between the yellow and the pink, I guess is what I have. But purple, are you adding in purple where on the stem or here on the
On the
petal?
flower petals, just yours looks lovely.
Merlot looks a little more purple over here too.
I'm gonna bring some purple in. I'll show you that in a second. I
You just have more water.
yeah, I'm adding a little bit more water onto it and kind of trying to blend that in. And this is one of those that you'll start to, the more you practice this one, this kind of just the bringing the color in, putting it down, bringing a little bit more water in, moving it around, it gets easier to figure out how to manipulate those lines that you're talking about. But I do have some pretty strong lines. Actually, you can't see it too much, but it is happening. There are some strong lines starting to happen, and I'm gonna kind of be okay with that because we're gonna play with it a little bit more. So while it's still kind of wet, I do actually want to bring in some purple, some Merlot. Because you can see towards the bottom down here, we've got some darker colors happening and they're cool. So I want to see if I can bring that in. That I do like the Merlot that we had going on. Let me see about that. Yeah. I think I want to add some red to it. Okay, so I'm just kind of mixed this color right here. And I just brought in reds and purples until I got what felt right to me. It's not even about mixing. I'm not trying to necessarily get the exact color I'm seeing down here, but I want to get something dark. So I'm just gonna bring that in down here. I'm kind of letting it bleed in. And then I see it right here and right here. And I'm gonna, while it's still wet, I'm bringing in the purple up here. And I'm leaving the petals wet as I'm doing this so that the water will just kind of do its own thing. And I'm gonna do the same thing down here. It's not as wet as I hoped it would be down here. So it's not traveling as much as I would like it to, but I'm just pulling this color up. Right, and now I'm gonna rinse that off. Now I'm almost pleased with what I've got happening right here with the tulips, but I want a little bit more orange in some places. And so I'm just gonna play with that orange color, see if I can kind of get what I want happening here. Adding water and just kind of taking a look at what I see. It's got a little more orange right here, just bleeding that in. And over here. There's definitely more orange on this. Yeah, I did get some, I don't think it's showing up maybe quite as much, but I did get some pretty strong lines where I was not trying to get lines, but that's okay. It's kind of the magic. We get what we get, and sometimes it creates something kind of unexpected. And that is actually part of what I love about watercolors. And normally can be kind of type A about things. And this allows that little just piece of the unexpected to come in. And it's getting there, I think, but there's some places where I just want it to be a little bit darker with the pink. And so I'm just going to come in and pull that color in the way I want it. And I'm walking a fine line with these tulips because there's some places where I kind of want a sharp line in the color, and I want that sharp line to bleed into a softer. So I'm kind of taking a gamble to play with where the water is already on the paper and just see what happens. So almost letting it be that wet on wet technique to see just if I can let the color do what it needs to do. Kind of to become what it needs to become. Tulips were one of the very first things I watercolored. I think they are endlessly fun. Because there's always some tweaking you can do. Just really playing with this color. Now I'm just kind of I need to stop playing with this and kind of let this dry and see what happens. And then kind of come back into it. Now, there are, again, there's really fun options that we have here. So wherever you are with your tulip, you could leave it just like this, right? You could let it be this composition of white tulips on a white background, or you could cut in with a color and give it a background if you wanted. And I would suggest something kind of contrasting that's going to make these other pieces stand out. So for instance, like a blue might be a good thing if you wanted to give it a background. And I just don't know if we need a background or not. I haven't decided yet, but I know the main thing is that I want to let this kind of dry. So I'm gonna just move the pen for a second here. And I want to check in. How are you guys doing? Questions? Come see, come saw.
It's hard to stop like playing, right? You just kind of keep layering and layering and
Yeah.
it's fun.
And
I mean, but it's like also addictive of like, maybe I should stop now.
yeah, no, it can be like that where you're like, oh, I don't know. Do I want to stop? Do I want to let it be? And then there's that question of, do I want to give it a background? Part of me kind of wants to give it a background just to see what it would look like. And you know, when I say that, you know what's going to happen, right? Is it's probably going to get a background. Kind of feel like a turquoise blue would be, or like your earrings. I don't know if that's what color they actually are. That's a cool color. Kind of like that. And we have a color sort of like that. So in my older set, it's called light green, but it doesn't seem green at all. It seems very turquoise. On your set, it would be the one that's actually called light turquoise. Yeah, I think I'm gonna play with that. We're gonna see what happens when I put that color down. And if you decide that you think, oh, yeah, I want to try a background too, use the biggest brush you have. It will cover a lot of, like I use my round 16 for putting in the background because I can put a lot of color down quickly. And so it helps me not have too many lines, although you can't really avoid it per se. You're gonna have some lines.
Is there a trick if you got carbon tracing paper on your background? Is there a trick, like, will a regular eraser get rid of that?
No, it won't. That is the one bad thing about carbon paper,
Okay,
is that it won't erase.
okay, so we just live with it.
You just live with it,
Cool.
which I've done with a number of mine. But that's the cool thing of that's why the older the tracing paper, the better, or carbon paper. It's not really tracing paper, it's carbon paper. Tracing paper is a very different thing. I want to call it tracing paper because we're tracing, but carbon paper, it is carbon. And so the more you use those, the better it gets because there won't be as much carbon on that sheet the more you use it. And it will become a much lighter line. If you're someone that enjoys lighter lines, that will feel really good. So Laura, you've been doing a lot of the digital. So how does this compare? Does it feel super different? Does it feel?
I mean, yeah, the water is just such a, it's just such a thing to get used to.
Mhm.
But there are watercolor brushes, which are super digital watercolor brushes. So they put down, like, it's still a mouse and like a stylus pen and an iPad, but you're putting down like as if it were a watercolor brush.
Mhm.
And it's that is super cool. But yeah, this is like, I'm learning a lot. Like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm just learning and I kind of love it. But like this idea of what you said, Alish, where you start with light and then you move to dark.
Yep.
With like acrylic, it's almost the opposite. You start
Yeah.
with dark and then you move to light. So
Yeah.
that's super cool. I'd like, that's a cool idea of like, oh, start with You start with light with watercolor. So if I use those digital brushes, those watercolor brushes, I'll know better how to use them
Mm,
now.
that's so interesting. I know somebody who made like all of the brushes for Adobe.
Oh,
And he just moved from Adobe to Procreate, I believe.
I mean, Procreate's doing the most out here. It's really cool. It's a good
Yeah.
program.
I don't have a working iPad right now, but if I did, I'm sure I'd be playing with that too. Because you can like do a lot of art then, and then it makes it easier to make patterns when you pull it into Illustrator. Yeah.
Yeah, the pattern making is bananas. Yeah. Also, there's like a brush, there's like a technique where you can make it look like embroidery. You can do so
Oh,
much.
cool.
It's so cool.
Okay, it totally changes it to put a background on, but I'm so glad I put a background on. I love just like the white, like the flowers against the white, but I really am also very much enjoying this. So have you all figured out how fun it is to see the painting the next day and see how the watercolor fairy comes and like it just looks different? Have y'all experienced that magic yet? I always feel like something just kind of happens overnight and it just, you're like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I didn't notice how beautiful that was last night and now I like it more, or I never like it less the next day.
I feel like it's so good to give your artwork space to just breathe. Like I'll get like obsessed with a thing and then my husband Rob will be like, just like leave it for a day and then come back to it. And every time that's really good advice.
Yes, I completely agree. Laura, are you doing a lot with acrylic right now?
No, well, the brushes that I use in Procreate are acrylic. I've just like, that's kind of been my happy find is that I love to do acrylic digitally. And
Oh, interesting.
yeah, so yeah, and there's this particular brush set that I found that it just speaks to me and I know how to use it. And I feel like my art grew exponentially when I found it.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
kind of just sticking with that.
That's so cool.
I love it.
Have you taken any of Liz Kohler Brown's classes?
I haven't. She looks dope, but she's your pattern person, right?
No, that's Bonnie Christine. Liz Kohler Brown does a lot with Procreate. I don't think Bonnie does anything with Procreate. She doesn't teach anything with Procreate anyway.
Does Liz do like patterns or just anything? Just
Yeah, she does actually do patterns, but she made a name for herself, I think, teaching Procreate
okay.
originally. And now she's kind of like teaching people how to like take those Procreate drawings and make patterns out of them and put them on drop shipping things and put them into the world. So it's really cool.
That is awesome.
I feel like I've had to give the turquoise a couple layers here, and I'm trying to, I wanted to get it tonight without a glare for y'all, but I don't think that's quite going to be possible. I'll probably post this one on Instagram, but because it's just giving it a little bit of a glare, but I'm pretty pleased with where this has turned out so far. And I think I'm gonna leave it. I think we've hit like the point of done for me. If I keep playing with it, we're gonna just not do good things.
Is that an official watercolor term?
Yeah, hit the point of done.
Yeah.
So, but I just want to see what kind of questions we have going on. What's working, what's not working.
Looking for shadows and stuff, sometimes it doesn't look like the picture.
Hmm.
Like it feels like
say more.
there's like a
Oh,
lot
just-
of like I feel like the yellow is not in the right places. It's like the shadows look weird.
That looks
Leaf-
gorgeous, first of
Yeah.
all. So that looks so good. And I would also remember that we are making art. We're not necessarily like, yeah, we can try to make it as much like the reference as we want to, but give it your flair. And I feel like that got your flair and it's beautiful. So it's okay if we add darker shadows or if we add a color we don't see. Like sometimes those little details are going to be what makes it the most interesting, Amy, how are you feeling?
Well, I like to be able to follow directions, and I'm not able to keep up. So I go through my little frustration thing, and then I break through and just start playing a little bit. So
Good, good,
it's probably good for me.
good. No, I'm glad to hear that. It's like, yeah, you can only, with watercolor, in some ways you have to move kind of fast in some places. And that tripped me up in the beginning too, when I first started, when I was working with my teacher, I'd be like, wait a second. So don't be afraid to say, hey, Alicia, can you do that again? Or tell me what you just did. Show me that again. I might not be able to show you the exact thing, but I can kind of point out where I just put that stroke. So slow me down. Don't be afraid. Slow me down when you need to. But I think like there's so much magic that happens where you just let go of the need to control it, and trying to get comfortable with that piece of the process of like, okay, this isn't going to look exactly like that, or I'm not going to be able to keep up. And when you let go, fun, beautiful things happen.
Yeah, I really want to get better at, like, I don't have any mastery over the tools, so it's like learning to drive and I'm like a toddler behind the wheel. I
Yeah.
keep going over curbs and I don't know. But yeah, but that is my desire, is to get a little better. Because I think I'm pretty creative. Like I like to play, but I have a lot more fun playing when I can know more, to do more things than go like this,
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, so
Just keep at it. I will sound like a broken record, but this is one of those things where the more we do it, the more we do it, the more you do it, and something just clicks, and it clicks at a different time for everyone. But at a certain point, you're like, oh, I see how that water moves on the paper, or oh, that's the right amount of water on my brush for this type of thing. But it just takes a lot of play, a lot of practice.
I think I got to the end and I like at the very end, I figured out how to use the paint with less water. Like I was pretty waterlogged the whole
Mhm.
class. And then at the end, I kind of was like, ooh, that's cool. And then I just kind of so I feel complete.
That looks
feel-
so good.
Thank you.
Oh,
I
that
feel
looks
in the
great.
background, I feel really good. Like I feel just like, but it was at the end where I was like, oh, okay, so this is what it feels like with less paint. So now next time I'll know
Mhm.
of ish.
Yeah,
This is the
absolutely.
first watercolor I've ever done in my whole life. This is so
Oh my
fun.
God, I want to high five you.
I'll take it.
I love that. Well, and next week we're doing we're going to do a landscape. And I just want to prepare you all. Landscape is not the easiest, but it's fun because when you relinquish control, interesting things happen. And a landscape is a great place to let that happen. And landscapes are where I like to remind myself, no one sees the reference photo but you. So no one knows what's supposed to be going on. You just do it and you'll see fun things happen. So, but it's only been since I've been teaching watercolor that I've forced myself to do more landscapes, because I know that you can learn a lot through the play of doing a landscape. So
I have
There's
a
a-
question.
Sorry.
okay,
go ahead.
Amy, and then Laura. I saw 2 questions. Okay.
Okay. I know it seems like you're sometimes with your brush, it looks like you're almost like drawing, like coloring with a colored pencil almost, where I've been told, like with watercolors, and my painting, I think, is an example of it. The paper, if you go over it too much, it starts to just get like yuck. And I think mine gets yuck, but yours doesn't. So I don't know if you have anything to say about like
What kind of, do you have arches watercolor paper?
you know what? Today I'm not using arches.
That is a big piece of it.
Wow.
Arches, part of what I like about arches is it absorbs more water.
Okay.
And so it will it will like take more of that in. So if you get too much water on your brush, it doesn't pill the way a different watercolor paper
Yeah.
would pill. So that is part of it. Now, the other piece of that is just being careful that with the amount of water. So making sure you're just kind of like what I do is when I put it in, I just really kind of like dab the edges to get the water off, depending on what I'm doing, right? So if I want a thicker, sharper line, I'm going to do less water, more pigment. So I would get a lot of water off the brush and spend a lot of time like just kind of going like this within that pigment area to pick up a darker color so that I can get a sharper color and a sharper line. But you have to really start to play with what that is. And sometimes I can even get a dark, dark, dark line, bring it over to the palette and see that it's dark enough, or see like, oh no, I need more pigment. I might have to add a little bit more water to the brush, bring it back to the pigment, pull that on, and then apply it to the paper. So you'll start to, the more you play with it, the more you'll get a feel for how much pigment you can get on the paper versus how much water, etc. But again, this is one of those things where the more you do it, the more you'll get the feel for it, and it doesn't happen right away. So I don't think anybody's born with just like watercolor talent. It just comes with that like playing with it. And after a while you get it. So I want to, oh, Laura, yeah, you had something.
I just wanted to ask, if you had mentioned that the carbon paper, we can reuse like those pieces? Okay.
Yes, let me show you an example. And I just talked about this. I did a recording for for anybody who's doing the Watercolor Time membership, I just put in one of the first August recordings, because there will be 3 recordings that go in, and then we'll do 1 live session each month. And I talked about carbon paper. This is a very new piece of carbon paper that I just crumpled up to help get some of the carbon off, like so that not as much would come on. But you can see how shiny it is because it's new, right? So I haven't used this one as much, but compare that to this one that has been used like hundreds of times. And this one that's been used hundreds of times, it's a lot lighter of a line and a lot less, like I don't get a lot of the like what you were saying that you got, like nothing really picks up a lot of other stuff on the paper. Now, what some people do, if that really irritates you, if you're like, I'm not gonna be able to live with this, I'm not gonna be able to live with this if we're gonna keep doing stuff, what you can do is you can take a pencil, like a number 2 pencil, and on the back of your reference photo, lots and lots, just all over, right? Pencil all over the back of this. And then trace from this, and then it's graphite, then it's excuse me, lead, whatever's in pencils. I don't know what that is anymore. I don't think it's lead in pencils anymore, is it?
We
I
don't
don't
know.
Whatever's in pencils instead of the
gray stuff.
graphite. And then you can erase if you get the other stuff on the paper, right? So that's another way to do it. But that gets just messy and tedious, which is why I don't do it. I will tell you, when I do that though, I have a huge pencil. Look at that. So if I'm going to do that, I use a really big pencil. I need to sharpen it because I can get more of the pencil on quicker. So that's a way to do it. For those that are interested in the Watercolor Time membership for August, I wanted to share a couple details. So it will be 3 pre-recorded lessons and 1 live lesson minimum, but I will probably do often like 2 live sessions. But I want, oh man, if you do peace signs, like balloons happen. So I just want to let you all know, and for anybody that does a full annual membership this week, I'll send you one of these, a tote bag, an art tote bag. So yeah, so it's worth it. Look, I'm like NPR, and I'll send you a tote bag. Ashley, I know you're joining
Mine
us.
got really moody.
You show me. Oh, I love that purple. That's great. Does everybody want to show theirs? Hold
Yeah, I
them
like
up.
to see the different ones.
Yeah, let's see what everybody's doing. Oh, look at that. Ashley, I love the red. Amy, that looks so good. Laura, I love it. Rose, and who's with you? Who do we have over there? I forgot to ask.
Oh, sorry. This is my partner, John.
Hi, John. Welcome.
Hello.
Oh, this looks so good. Oh, y'all did great. I love it. So good. Oh, well, this was a fast one. I don't think next week is going to go as fast as this week did. And you all might be seeing it, but one thing, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again, something that you can do, take a picture of yours and then turn it to black and white, and you'll see where you might need highlights or lowlights. Does that make sense? Like where you might need to darken something up, you'll be able to see contrast a little bit easier. I also, before I call a piece done, I do like to look at it on my phone because it gives me that perspective, Laura, that you're saying of like, oh, if I can just take a look at it in a different way, it gives me that like backed up perspective. If I really can't just leave it till the next day, because sometimes I don't have the patience to just leave it till the next day. So the phone helps give me that really fun perspective that I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. Any final questions?
This was so fun. Thank you.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see you all next week for our landscape. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and I will see you next week. Okay. Bye.
Thanks, Lish.
you.
Bye.
Bye.